Who did you tell about the infidelity, and how did it go? This topic comes up at least once a week when I'm speaking with people just like you. Some people will rush out and tell everyone and their mother, while others will suffer in silence, afraid to tell a single soul. We suggest finding some middle ground. Pause and consider what you need right now and who can provide that for you. I'm going to share my personal experience of who I told and how that went, as well as relay some expert advice on how to navigate what can be a very anxiety-producing decision. A couple friends, a doctor, and a priest. No, that's not the start of a joke. That's the order of who I chose to tell about the infidelity. I decided quickly that I was going to wait on telling our family. I was barely able to keep myself standing, let alone having to deal with them processing what I assumed would be devastating information. So how did it go? The friends I told all rushed to pick sides, immediately joining Team Candace. One of my girlfriends was genuinely empathetic and supportive, while I quickly realized that the other was treating it like it was the latest and greatest reality TV show. Every time I saw her, she could not wait to tune in for a juicy update. It was much more, did you find any other pictures of her? And when are you going to tell her husband everything? And way less, how are you feeling? What can I do to help? Up next, my doctor. Having no clue of how to bring up infidelity to someone who normally sees me for the pain in my left knee or the occasional sinus infection, I decided to just blurt it out within 10 seconds of him walking into the room. He stared at me in silence for what felt like a very uncomfortable amount of time. He quickly typed something onto his laptop, and then he said, "Let me know if you need a psych eval," before leaving the room as if it were on fire. A nurse came into the room 90 seconds later, handed me a printout of my patient summary. The doctor had typed, "Husband cheated, check for STDs." I walked out of that room feeling like an abused and abandoned dog that someone had discarded on the side of the road. Up next was our priest. Out of all the people I told, my husband could not wait for me to tell our priest. This is because my husband was convinced that our priest would immediately send me on a first-class guilt trip, reminding me that I was the one who stood there in that church 20 years ago and agreed to stay married through the good times and the bad. My husband gambled and lost on that prediction. The moment I finished giving our priest the 2-minute version of my drama and trauma, he closed his gaping jaw and without any hesitation, told me to just get an annulment. If you're not familiar, that is where the Catholic Church agrees to hit the reset button and give you a marital do-over. He didn't personally offer or even suggest anyone or anything that could possibly help me, my husband, or my kids. He just gave me his permission to pull the plug on my marriage, go out and find a new husband. Right around the 10-month mark, I decided that my fourth and final D-Day was my sign that it was time to tell our family. We started with the kids. We put a tremendous amount of thought and planning into the how, when, where, and what we were going to tell our then 17-year-old twins. Looking back, I am profoundly grateful that we invested in expert guidance that was tailored to our specific situation before having that conversation with our children. We met virtually with one of the clinical professionals who facilitates our EMS weekend. He scripted the entire conversation for us and even gave us suggestions of where my husband and I should sit in the room in order to create a united front. He provided us with age-appropriate and situationally sensitive verbiage to help us navigate these incredibly painful and uncharted parental waters. I'm going to interrupt myself for a moment and tell you that after working for Affair Recovery for almost 3 years, I am now very aware of the wide range of responses that can come from family. I give the adults in our family a solid 2 out of 5 stars. They did not have a drastic response like what might have happened to some of you. Unlike with my friends, an assumption was not made that the marriage was over and that my husband wasn't welcome in their homes or their lives ever again. For the most part, their responses swung in the completely opposite direction and sounded much more like, "Candace, it sounds like he's really sorry. You have a nice house, you drive a nice car. You're not going to be able to keep either one if you get divorced." From that point on, it was as if I never told them, Well, in the short term, that made life easier for my husband and I because they were basically like, so what time should we come over for dinner on Christmas Eve? Their lack of what I felt like should have been a more appropriate and warranted visceral reaction left me to interpret their lack of animosity as if they didn't think it was that big of a deal. I should just continue living happily never after in my facade of a nice life. In full transparency, I didn't even begin to unpack how much that hurt me in therapy until right around the 2-year mark. That was when it hit me like a brick. No one threw down for me. No one. I would go on to work with 2 different therapists who eventually were able to help me understand that while their responses were lacking, those might have just been the best responses they had to give. Not everyone comes equipped with high levels of emotional intelligence. One therapist explained, they might have treated you like it was okay because they were incapable of dealing with the fact that it was not okay. Whatever go-to coping skills they have in their little emotional toolbox, in this case, pretending normal or avoidance, those are going to be their coping skills of choice. For those of you who shared what is undoubtedly the most sensitive piece of information you've ever shared, and you were mishandled by friends, family, maybe even by professionals, I am so incredibly sorry. You deserved better. The complicated reality is that some people are just safer to share with than others. You cannot put the toothpaste back in the tube. We can control who we choose to tell, but we cannot control their response. Let me say that again for the people in the back. We can control who we choose to tell, but we cannot control their response. I cannot tell you how much I wish we had some type of chart or graph that gives very specific guidance like tell your best friend, but not your siblings, or tell your dad, but not your mom. Unfortunately, it's just not nearly that black and white. Okay, I promised to share expert advice, so here goes. When deciding whether to confide in someone close to you, ask yourself, have I ever seen them handle very sensitive and private information before? Did they treat this fragile information with grace and compassion, or with gossip and disregard? Were they empathetic, sympathetic, or neither? Now, if you're wondering, wait, aren't empathy and sympathy the same thing? Nope, I used to think so too. Here's the difference. Sympathy is standing from a distance saying, ooh, I'm so sorry, how awful for you. Empathy steps up and steps in, saying things like, how about I bring you dinner tonight? Does Thai sound good, or would you prefer Italian? I can cover the carpool so you can go to therapy after work. Or it might sound like, I have no idea what to say, but I'm here to listen for as long and as often as you need. More questions to ask yourself. Have they ever been through something similar, or at least comparably traumatic? If so, how did they come out on the other side? Do you think that they will be capable of staying impartial and not choosing sides or shoulding on you? Yes, I said shoulding, as in saying things like, you should just leave him or her. You should decide right now if you're going to stay or leave. Remember, just as you weren't given a manual of how to navigate the aftermath of an infidelity grenade, neither were your friends and family. Some may rise to the occasion with genuine love and unconditional support. Others might struggle to find the right words or reactions. At Affair Recovery, we believe it's best to tell those who can relate, but not feel compelled to fix it for you or tell you what you should do. That's why every course we offer places you into a safe, supportive, small group. All of our online courses are led by a trained group leader, while our EMS weekend retreats are facilitated by a team of clinical professionals. If you would like to learn more about how we can help, please schedule a free 20-minute appointment with an intake specialist today. We look forward to speaking with you.